Okay, Eduyos, Daled base. But in the case of an animal that was born on Yom Tov, all agree that it's permitted. And in the case of a chick that was hatched from an egg on Yom Tov, all agree that it's prohibited. If one slaughters a wild animal or a fowl on Yom Tov, Beis Shammai says he may dig up some earth with his spade and cover the blood. But Beis Hillel says he may not slaughter unless he has earth prepared from before Yom Tov. But Beis Hillel agrees that if he had already slaughtered, he should dig up some earth with that spade and cover the blood with it. The ashes of a stove are prepared. Beis Shammai says produce declared ownerless for the poor becomes ownerless. But Beis Hillel said it is not ownerless unless it is declared ownerless with respect to the rich as well as in the case of with Shemitah. If all the sheaves of the field are each the size of one cob and one is the size of four cobs, and he forgot the large sheaf, Beis Shammai says that it is not treated as shechachah, but Beis Hillel says it is shechachah. If a sheaf is close to a wall with a stack of grain and to cattle or to implements, and he forgot it, Beis Shammai says he is not. It is not treated as shikakah, but Beis Hillel says it is shikakah. Okay.
Okay, cool. Mishna, hey, Kerem Revai. If you recall Kerem Revai, that's the fourth year produce. Right. And here again we have a chumrah of Beis Hillel. Because Beis Shammai say ein lo chomesh ve'ein lo biur. You do have to redeem it and take it to Yerushalayim, but because there's a fundamental difference between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai in how to relate to Kerem Revai. By the way, can you hear me? I'm talking softly.
I'm fine. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So the fundamental difference between Kerem Revai and is that it's not quite the same as Maaser Sheni. Maaser Sheni is like that's the real deal, and you've got to do a full redemption, including an extra chomesh when you're redeeming it onto the money. But Revai, not so much, and you'll see that coming out in a couple of places. So Beis Shammai say because it's not the full force of Maaser Sheni, therefore you don't have to add a chomesh on when you're redeeming it. And also, there's no chiyuv to be mevar. Your other Maaser Sheni you've got to get rid of after a certain time. What the biur is for? I'm just trying. I actually can't even remember when is the zman biur for Maaser Sheni. I'm afraid. I'm just looking. Oh, Erev Pesach, right? Erev Pesach in the fourth year. And the seventh year, right, is according to them, it's not equivalent to Maaser Sheni. Basically, it's got the same din as Maaser Sheni. Beis Shammai omrim yesh lo peret v'yesh lo olelos. Says, however, here comes the stringency of Beis Shammai is that there is peret and olelos are the small pieces or the they're basically parts of a vineyard that have to be left for poor people, so they're not completely formed grapes that aren't in clusters. And peret is like leket for grapes. It's for things that you cut and that fall.
Right. Okay.
So those things still belong to the poor, says Beis Shammai, because it's not like Maaser Sheni where it all belongs to the when Maaser Sheni all belongs to the owner. Okay, but aniyim podim latzman. Nonetheless, it's still got the din of Revai. So the aniyim have to take it and they have to put posters around saying this is the Kerem Revai, and if you're taking olelos and whatever, you need to redeem it. Okay, that's according to Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel omrim kula lagas. The owners can fence it off and say, sorry, aniyim, this is last year was orla, this year is Kerem Revai. You still can't take any of it. And all of it can go to the owner's wine press, and he can squeeze it all, and he can redeem it all, and take that money to Yerushalayim. So according to Beis Hillel, which of course is the halacha, it's like Maaser Sheni in every respect, and there are kulas and there are chumras that go with that, which is why it mentions over here the chumra being that you have to redeem it with the full chumash, and you have to have the din of biur. Okay. Mishna Vav, Chavis shel zeisim megul kalim. So here there's a guy who's pickling olives. Okay, in a barrel, you put them in salt, and they're supposed to soften, and then you can make them edible. Okay, Beis Shammai omri. Now the question that we're trying to deal with over here is avoiding tumah. Okay, we want to make sure that we want to make sure that the olives do not get primed for tumah. Right? While they're in the tree, they're not susceptible. After they've been picked, they're not susceptible until they come into contact with liquids. Okay, but the liquid that comes out of the olives themselves is a liquid, right? It's oil, right? Olive oil that comes out. Other fruit juices does not prime prime food for susceptibility, but olive oil does. Okay, so now the thing is that he's picking these things in the barrel, and the question is, what about the oil that's going to drip out of them in the barrel? Does that prime the olives now for tumah? And Beis Shammai are making on this. They say there's no need to make a hole in the bottom of the barrel to let it drain. We all know that the liquid that comes out is bad for the olives. It doesn't help them to taste better. So therefore, since it's not l'ratzon, it's not something that you want. The olives are not susceptible to tumah. They say no, you do actually have to demonstrate that you don't want that liquid by putting a hole in the bottom of the barrel so that the liquid can drain out. Okay.
Were you saying before that other juices it doesn't happen with the tumah? So does that mean that if you have an orange and juice slips out of the orange, or
Correct. Orange juice does not prime for tumah.
And apples and pears and all anything.
The only fruit juices that do prime for tumah are grapes and olives.
Grapes and olives. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're smiling. I don't know.
I just got a message from somebody that made me smile. Umodim she'im nikva ustamu hashmarim shehi tahora. However, even Beis Hillel concedes that if he did make the hole and the hole got plugged up with sediment, so that the liquid started building up, that's still tahor, because having done the act of making the hole, and then it got blocked up with sediment, that's okay. Okay, now a separate case now. Hasach b'shemen tahor. So a person anoints himself with pure oil, and then he himself became tameh. Okay, so he touched a dead sheretz or something like that, and he still got this oil on his skin, which of course it would seem it would be tameh. Yarad b'taval. So now he goes to mikveh, and he's still got this oil on his skin. Now, first of all, important question here: is that a chatzitza? No, it's not a chatzitza, because he wants it. If you want something on your skin, then it's not a chatzitza. We're kind of machmir in two directions. There are two, when you go to mikveh, there are two things that two qualifiers for a chatzitza. Midaraisa, it's got to cover the majority of your body, and you don't want to have it there. Okay, midrabanan, either of those two conditions you shouldn't do. So if it's a small thing, like even like a dot of paint on your thumb or something like that, and you go to mikveh and you come out and say, oh, no, I've got this dot of paint, and it's certainly not rob of your body. But midrabanan, we say it's a chatzitza. Midaraisa, it's fine,
right,
because it's just small. Okay, or alternatively, even if it's something that you do want, but it covers the majority of your body, that also is considered a chatzitza. But let's say he's got some oil on his body, which he wants, which is less than rob of his body, then that's fine. Okay, Yarad v'taval. So he went into the mikveh and came out, and this oil is still visible on him. Even though the oil is still dripping, it's still dripping off him. Wait a minute. What is menatef? Let me just clarify that again. That the shemen is dripping from him after he's toiveled. The oil is considered as tafel to his body, and since he himself has become tahor in the mikveh, the oil became purified with him. Now that's a huge thing, because normally the only liquid that can be purified in a mikveh is water. Okay, and that you do that by hashaka. So, for example, if you've got some tame water and you put it into a stone kli and you gently submerge it until it touches the mikveh water, then the water inside becomes tahor. But that doesn't work with oil by itself. But because the oil is sitting on his body, it takes on, according to Beis Shammai, it takes on the din of his body. And once he toivels and comes out, that oil that's on his body has also become tahor. Okay, Beis Hillel omrim Kedei sichas ever katan. He says they put a limit on this. They say only if it's such a small amount that it would be enough to toible his like baby finger in. Ever katan, is that his baby finger? Let me just make sure of that. Yeah. Yep, his baby finger, his pinky. And only if it's any more than that, then the oil is significant in its own right, and it does not become purified. However, if the oil had been tame from the outset, then Beis Shammai also concede that it would remain tame if it was more than the kedei sichas ever katan, that small amount. Beis Hillel amrim mashke tofech, and Beis Hillel again more machmir. They say any amount of liquid that you would mashke tofech that is enough to wet the hand that touches it. Okay. And then it does not become tahor with his personal tevila. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Beis Shammai, tofech umatzpiach. He says that he has a different interpretation of Beis Hillel, that if it would wet another finger, that would in turn be able to wet another finger. So that's a slightly higher shear. But that halacha doesn't follow Rabbi Yehuda. It follows Beis Hillel in the smaller quantity, again showing a chumrah of Beis Hillel. Okay, and Mishna Zayin, another chumrah of Beis Hillel. Ha'isha miskadeshes bedina u'b'shava dinner k'divrei Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai say that she requires a much larger amount in order to be married. Beis Hillel omrim b'pruta v'shava pruta. Okay, the pruta is much less than a dinar, much less than a dinar. Now, why is that called a chumrah? Because with such a small amount of money, she now becomes asur to any other man. Okay, and that means that if she has relations with another man, that's she'd be chayav misa. So let's say somebody does kiddushin literally with a pruta. According to Beis Shammai, that's not a kiddushin, and she would be allowed to marry anyone else. Whereas Beis Hillel said that's a death penalty right there. So that's why that's called a chumrah of Beis Hillel. And once again, we repeat the language in the Mishnah in Kiddushin. Kama hi pruta echad mishmona ve'isar italki. It's 1/8 of an Italian isar. Beis Shammai omrim poter. Once we're dealing in the subject of marriages, Beis Shammai say poter is ishto beget yashan. A get yashan is valid to divorce his wife. Okay, Beis Hillel osrin, and Beis Hillel say you cannot use a get yashan. So what's a get yashan? Asks the Mishnah. Kol shenis yached ima acha shekasavola. So he dated the get on a certain day, and then he was in yichud with her after that date. So basically, he didn't hand over the get on the date it was written. So the get has got one date on it, and then he was in yichud with her in between, and then he only gave the get afterwards. So now the concern over here is that meanwhile she's going to conceive, and somebody's going to do the math and say, how old is this kid? And say the kid was conceived out of wedlock, because the date on the get is before the date of conception. So Beis Shammai aren't choshesh for that. Beis Hillel say not allowed. Cannot give a get yashan. And in a similar vein, megarish is ishto v'lana imo b'pundaki. If a person actually did give a get to his wife, and then after having given a get to his wife, he then goes into yichud with her. They give the example of booking into a hotel room with her. Okay, Beis Shammai omrim eina tzricha mimenu get sheni. So Beis Shammai say, no, you did the wrong thing, but she doesn't need another divorce. Beis Hillel omrim tzricha mimenu get sheni. She has to get a second get from him, because maybe while they're in yichud they slept together, and he's not going to do that for nothing. He did bia als kiddushin. In other words, he took back his grusha, and they basically got married again with the bia. Okay, Amasai, when is this apply? Bisman nisgar shemin and nisuin. That's only if they've been living together up until now. Aval im nisgar shemin erusin. If it was just a divorce from erusin, where they haven't lived together yet. Ain't tzricha mimena get shenis, and even Beit Hillel concedes she doesn't need a second get mipnei and evil gaspa, because he doesn't feel like since he's never lived with her, he doesn't have that brazenness that he's going to sleep with her after the divorce. Okay,
Right.
let's do chazaras.
We have Beit Gimel.
Yeah.
He has also testified about a small village that was adjacent to Yerushalayim, and there was in it. There was in this village a certain sage who would lend money to all the villages, and he would write in his own hand and others assign. When the incident came before the Chachamim, they permitted it, and from this testimony you may learn incidentally about a woman who may write her own get and a man may write his own get receipt, because the validation of the document is defected only by its signers. And Reb Chanina testified concerning a needle that was discovered in the flesh, that the knife in the hands are tahor, but the flesh is tameh. And if the needle was discovered in the excrement, everything is tahor. Reb Ishmael stated that three things before the sages in the Academy of Yavna. The first testimony was concerning a beaten egg that was put on top of a vegetable of truma, that there is a connection. But if the egg was like a helmet, it is not a connection. Rav Ishmael also testified concerning an ear of standing grain in the root section of the field, and the tip of the ear reaches the standing section. If it is cut together with the other standing grain, it belongs to the owner. If not, it belongs to the poor. Rav Ishmael testified concerning a small garden that is surrounded by trellis vines, that if there is in this garden space for a grape harvester, and his basket here, and a space for a grape harvester, and his basket there, he may be sown, and it may be sown, and it may not be. And if not, it may not be so. Three things the disciple stated before Rabbi Ishmael, and he would not state either of a prohibition or a permit regarding them. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Masa clarified them. They asked about one who squeezes a boil on Shabbos. Rabbi Moshe Masa clarified, if his intent is to make an opening for it, he is liable, but if his intent to remove the pus from it, it is not liable. And if they asked the law regarding one who traps a snake on Shabbos, Rabbi Yeshua ben Masa clarified, if he is involved with it so that it will not bite him, he is not liable. But if he traps it for medicinal use, he's liable. If they asked the law regarding sealed pots, Rabbi Yeshua Meiser clarified that in the tent of a corpse they are tahor, but they are tamei. They are tamei when carried by a zav. Elazar ben Sadik says that they are also tahor when carried by a zav because their processing has not been completed.
Okay. Makros Gimel Hey.
One who makes a bald spot on his head, or who rounds his corner of his head, or who destroys the corner of his beard, or inflicts upon himself a single gash over someone who died, he is liable. If he inflicted one gash over 5 people who died, or 5 gashes over one person who died, he is liable for each one. On the head, 2 on one on each side. On the beard, 2 on each side and 1 below. But Eduyos says if he removed it all at once, he is liable only once. He is not liable unless he removes it with a razor. Eduyos says even if he plucked it with a tweezer or with a plane, he is liable. One who makes a tattoo, but if he wrote but did not prick it into his skin, or if he pricked the skin but did not write, he is not liable unless he writes and pricks it into the skin with ink and with blue dye, or with anything that makes a mark. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Reb Shimon, he is not liable unless he writes a name there, as it is said, and the tattoo you shall not place upon yourselves, I am Hashem.
And one more.
Oh, real? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was right. Okay. A Nazir who kept drinking wine all day is liable only once. If they said to him, do not drink, and he kept drinking, he is liable for each one. Do not wear.
That's it. That's it.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Base Gimel, sorry.
So, if behind the fence or behind the wall he found young birds with their wings tied or with the paths of the fields, he should not touch them. If he found the utensil in a heap of garbage and it is covered, he should not touch it. If it is uncovered, he must take it and announce it. If he found objects in a heap of stones or in an old wall, they belong to him. If he found objects in a new wall from the middle toward the outside, they belong to him. From the middle toward the inside, they belong to the owner of the house. If he rented it to others, even within the house, they belong to him. If he found things in a store that belonged to him, between the counter and the storekeeper, they belong to the storekeeper. If he found money in front of a money changer, they belong to him. Between the stool and the money chamber, they belong to the money changer. If one purchases produce from another, if another sends him produce, he is finally find money inside it, and he finds money inside it, it belongs to him. If it is tied, he must take it and announce it. The garment too was included in all of these. Why was it singled out? To compare it to tell you that just as the garment is distinguishing distinguishing features and it has claimants, so too anything which has distinguished features and has claimants must be announced.
Okay, so and I'm going to have to back up this point. I'll leave you to do the rest of your chazaras.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.